All right. So Kyle, it might be that you're the only one in person. If Kelly shows up, then that's fine. I appreciate you taking time to come today. And I appreciate everybody online who is able to participate and join today as well. So I'm just going to share my screen. Oh, we might have her coming in. Perfect. Welcome, Kelly. We're just about to get started, so it's perfect timing. No, you're okay. Have a seat wherever you're comfortable. So we have a big room. I'm just gonna, document. We have some people, just two, and then our lovely people online. Okay.
I'm not saying it's not okay. I'm just saying it feels different.
All right. Well, thank you for coming today. So for the in-person and the virtual, I am Josephine, and we are going to be doing an introduction to Ayurveda today. What are doshas and why they are important for digestive health? Quick hand raise. Does anybody have issues digestively? Constipation, diarrhea, pain, upset stomach, fatigue, sleeping poorly, or anything like that? Sure. So a lot of issues can come back to digestion and how our body functions. So that's what we're going to be addressing today is how our body functions, digestion, what are doshas, why they're important for us. And, so I think it's one of those topics that people don't always think of being as digestive. They're always looking for what is the reason behind what's going on, not always digestively. So before we get started, we're going to chant. We're going to tune in with the Adi mantra. So that is Om Namo Gurudev Namo. We're going to chant this mantra 3 times. It connects us to the golden chain. It's that lineage of teachers and gurus. This mantra means I bow to the creative wisdom. I bow to the divine teacher within. And this is something that I always chant before I start my yoga class. So some of you who have been to my class may know this mantra already. It is the standard mantra in all Kundalini. So if you know the chant, you can chant with me. Otherwise, you can listen, hum, and just bring your attention together. This really will just pull our collective consciousness together and allow us to flow through our presentation. So let's rub our palms together. Sit nice and tall in your chair. Bring them to your heart center. Put a little pressure on your sternum with your thumbs. Close the eyes, focus at the brow point. Take some long, slow, deep breaths. Now let's take a cleansing breath in. Exhale. And inhale to tune in. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Inhale. Suspend the breath. Exhale. And relax. Here's a little introduction of who I am, so you know. I'm Josephine Finelli, as most of you should know. I'm also known as Gurumantra Kaur. I'm owner and founder of Yogi Strong. I am a certified level 2 Kundalini Research Institute yoga instructor. I am a KRI trainer academy intern, a registered yoga teacher of 500 hours, a member of International Kundalini Yoga Teachers Association, 3HO, International Association of Yoga Therapists, and I'm a current student of Ayurveda at Boston School of Ayurveda. I am a yogi helping to expand conscious thought about body awareness, mental health, and nourishing the self with the sound current. I use Kundalini Yoga, Ayurveda, Kung Fu, and Qigong as a way to exercise and heal the mind, body, and spirit. It opens one up to reaching a higher state of awareness, emotional stability, and strength by using several techniques, which include pranayama, kriyas, meditations, bandhas, mudras, mantras, and visualization. I'm currently teaching Kundalini Yoga, Ayurvedic knowledge, and vegan cooking classes throughout New England, as well as guest teach and yoga teacher trainings nationally and internationally. My teaching specialty is on death and dying in the soul's journey, pranayama, body alignment, 10 bodies, chakras, and Ayurveda. I perform gong meditations with deep relaxations. I practice and teach Kung Fu workouts and techniques, Qigong healing sessions, give vegan wellness classes, volunteer in mental health facilities with applied therapeutic Kundalini meditations, and supporting fertility awareness, as well as guiding prenatal and postnatal yoga, teaching senior citizen flexibility, and facilitating meditational classes for beginners to advanced persons in a corporate and general setting. So that's just a little bit about me for those who don't know my background. So for the purposes of today, if you are in person or virtual, we ask that you raise your hand if you have any questions. We will have 4 parts today, and before we move into the next section, I will ask if you have any questions or thoughts, but there will be a nice Q&A at the end of the presentation in case a question pops up later regarding a section that I have moved on from. Please keep proper Zoom etiquette, keeping your mic on mute unless called upon. Our objective today, we're going to learn what are doshas, know the importance of eating for your dosha type, gain knowledge about Agni, recognize Agni's role to wellness, and understand digestion relies on Agni, and the physical and mental importance of digestion. So what is Ayurveda? You know, this is not a topic that a lot of people probably know about here, at least not in the West. Ayurveda is a life science. Ayurveda is the science of life. It is a manual to a healthy and happy existence. So think about your life. As you age, you grasp ideas on how to be, how to live, and no one hands you a manual. No one says, this is how you live life. This is how to be healthy and happy. You know, no one hands you that manual. So no one tells you or prepares you to live life. We are raised and groomed in hopes that we succeed, but most do not get the technology to living a healthy, happy, and longer life. Ayurveda is that life science technology for over 2,000 years of life science that's been handed down from generation to the next. Ayurveda does have a goal. They establish what is a healthy person. And this shloka is what a healthy person would be. It's samadosha, sama agnishka, samadhatu malakriya, prasanat man indriya mana, svasta, itya biti, yes, itya biti ayate. I try to put it out there like that so that way you can see how to say it. Iti abidi yate. So it means one who is established in self, who has balanced doshas, that's our principal life force, has balanced Agni, which is our digestive fire, properly formed dhatus, which are our tissues, proper elimination of malas, which is our bodily waste, well-functioning bodily processes, and whose mind, soul, and senses are full of bliss is called a healthy person. I don't know too many people who really can say that they're healthy by this guideline. I think we are overstressed, overworked. I feel that we are eating processed foods. We're not taking care of ourselves. We're not doing the self-care that's needed in order to have that clear mind, that soul, that body, and having all of our organs and all of our functions working properly. But this is the idea of a healthy person, and this is what Ayurveda has as a goal for each person. So in order to have that healthy individual, in order for our doshas to be well, we need to have awareness on how we eat, awareness on how we sleep, awareness on if we're meditating, and how we do self-care. We have to have a healthy lifestyle and diet. Again, we don't need to be having processed foods. We don't need to be overloaded with sugar. We need to lessen our sensory stimulation. And right now, our sensory stimulation is through the roof. We have our phones, we have the TV, we have internet, social media, where it's constant, right? We're not closing our eyes, we're not walking in nature, we're not taking time away. So that's a big one. And also, to be a healthy person, we need to be mindful, respectful, sincere, and generous. We need to make wise choices, and living that healthier, happier life will help keep dis-ease at bay. And I'm sure you can see how we have that hyphenated, because every dis-ease of the mind, of the self, of the body turns into a disease in the long run, because that negative influence settles into our energy. It settles into our mind, and then it continues to grasp on and hang tight and then dig into the body. And then we have sickness. Also, to be healthy, we have to see that there's a macrocosm and a microcosm in all aspects of life and creation. So what is going on with the planet is going on within our own body. Our own body is like a planet. Every cell that's going on in our body is its own universe. It's its own earth. And so you have to realize that whatever's going out in the universe, what's going on in earth, what's going on in your home, your city, and your home, you know, in your work is affecting your body. It's affecting the cells. We think we are our body, but we are not our body, because we have more organisms living in us and on us than you could comprehend. And maybe we're just the earth for all these organisms. So you have to think that how the earth is being treated and how we're getting, you know, living on it is similar to how our body is. So you have to look at the bigger picture and how we're all connected, how we're all the same. And that's that macrocosm and the microcosm. Doshas. This is probably an interesting word for some. You may not know what a dosha would be, but Ayurveda categorizes 3 types of energy groups called doshas. They would be vata, pitta, and kapha. These are built from the 5 elements called pancha mahabhutas. Pancha meaning 5s, maha meaning great, and bhuta meaning elements. And you will know these elements by ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Those elements make up all of everything. So we're going to dive deeper into this. You can see that these elements are in the body, starting with ether, is space. So ether is not like the air, it's the space. It's noticeable between the ears, the places where you're holding and where there's vibration. And you could think of outer space too. That's a place of holding, and there's a place of vibration out there. Air is not just what we breathe in, but it's also seen in places that have movement, like the heart, the respiratory, and other involuntary movements. And you can see the air also, like the wind as it flows through. So you can look at, again, the macro and the micro of these elements. Fire is that heating process responsible for digestion, your body temperature, and its subtleness within the ears, skin, eyes, tongue, and nose. Water maintains electrolyte balance, and plasma, which is 90% water, it allows the nutrients to flow from one part to another part of the body. Earth is very dense. You know, we're standing on Earth, so you can see that density, and it's noticeable within our body structure, like our bones, our nails, our hair, teeth, cartilage, and skin. And these 5 elements make up matter, but one or more may be more dominant within each piece of matter, and the same goes for doshas. So, and what I mean by that is that if you look at water, you would say, well, I don't know if all 5 elements are here. This is water. Well, no, all 5 elements are in there, but water is the dominant element. So same thing with doshas. Doshas, you know, you would have them, and let's skip ahead here. You would have them in your body, all 3 of them, but you might have one that's more dominant or 2 that are more dominant than the other. And we can see here that vata has ether and air are the more dominant elements for a vata, even though it has all 5 elements. And pitta, fire and water, are the 2 main elements, even though they have all 5. And a kapha, the dominant would be earth and water. Another shloka that we have here, I think best describes how doshas are, because it's sometimes hard to think about, okay, well, I have these elements, I have these doshas, how are they really relating to me? This one is Visarga, Adana, Vikshipai, Soma Surya, Anila, Yatha, Daryeti, Jagat, Dharam, Kapha Pitta, Anila, Tatha. And it means just as the moon, sun, and wind sustain the world, Kapha, Pitta, and Vata sustain the body by promoting strength, that anabolism, reducing strength, the catabolism, and the initiating of action. So this is a lot to take in. It's a lot of deep things to think about, to train your mind to look at it in a way that you're taking these particles, you're building upon them. They're all there, but there's more dominant. So it's not just the elements, it's also the doshas. Before we move ahead, does anybody have any questions before we go into each dosha? Yes, Kyle.
Your dosha is determined.
So it's determined at birth. So when you're born, with the way that the astrology flows, and depending also, so that's a good question, because it also depends on, how your mother was eating, her actions and thoughts, that all can change your dosha. It also depends on past life, samskaras that you might be bringing in, things that you have to learn in this lifetime. So there's a few different elements that determine that as well. But when you were born, that is your constitution, and it's your constitution for life. So you could say, I'm a Vata Pitta, and that won't change. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes as we fluctuate through the seasons and the time changes and ages and things like that. But your constitution, your prakriti, that won't change. From the time that you're born, that is your dosha. Those are your dominant doshas. So we'll go into that some more in a moment. Anybody else? Okay. So Vata dosha, again, is ether and air are the dominant elements. It governs movement. So that movement that consists of breathing, muscles, menstruation, urine and bowel, your heart, your cellular level, orgasms, sneezing, respiratory, circulation, communication, joy, creativity, just to name a few. And you know that joy is contagious, right? That creativity is contagious. That's where you can see that movement. Pitta, again, with the fire and water being the dominant elements, it governs digestion, taste, thirst, appetite, nutrition. It regulates body temperature, assimilation, and every transformation and more. So Pitta is what allows that transformation to happen. Then we have Kapha. That's more earth and water dominant. It makes up our body structure. It lubricates our skin and joints. It gives water to the body and its systems. It aids in immunity and memory retention. So you could have, feel that sometimes you might feel that you have a lot of kapha going on, and it can build up. But and then you might other times see that you have a lot of vata going on in your mind. And that also can change with the seasons, and we'll dive into that some more. So you can clearly see how all three doshas are needed. They all have 5 elements. They all have, stronger elements within them, but we need all of them in order to function physically, mentally, and emotionally. Each dosha has 2 dominant elements, even though they carry all 5. And just like how some elements may be more dominant, the same goes for the doshas. So 1 or 2 doshas may be more dominant within one person, even though all 3 doshas are present, which we've said. So for those of you who have joined today, some of you already know your dosha type or have a quiz that you've already taken. For those of you here, I will make sure that you get a dosha quiz, so that way you can find out which dosha is more dominant for you. So next we're going to move into talking about each dosha has a season. They also have influences in the 3 different age cycles. And then our daily routine, day to day, is the doshas are broken down as well. So Vata will start to build up in the body and in the mind through the seasons. And this is where we look at the macro and the micro again, because we can see that outside the weather's starting to change. It's getting cooler. The clouds are coming in, fall is happening. The colors on the leaves are changing. So there's a shift. There's a change going on. That vata, that wind, is a movement that happens. And that is when it settles in fall and in winter. So you will feel more aggravated, or vata will get more aggravated in this time of year. Doesn't mean the vata is going to affect you or anybody else. It just means that if you have, let's say, a vata imbalance, or if you didn't take care of yourself during the summer, which we see is the pitta season, then vata could be more prominent as a disturbance for you in the fall and the winter. Pitta is in the summertime. Summer is very hot, it's very drying, and you have to look at the qualities here too, that macro, micro. So it's hot, it's sharp, it's drying. If you look at the ground or the trees, you can see how that can be drying, and that you might need to take in more water for thirst, or eat lighter foods, because eating heavy foods on a hot summer day just doesn't make you feel good. It drains you down. People are eating watermelon and cucumber. Those are cooling foods that people are eating naturally that they don't even realize. Taking mint in their water, or adding lemon, or whatever they're doing it subconsciously, not realizing, but their body knows that these things cool me down. These things make me happy. They hydrate me. They keep me, functioning through the summer without weighing me down. So you'll see pitta in the summer. Kapha, you'll see in the spring. And a lot of people will think, well, why isn't kapha in the winter time when it's heavy and cold? Because kapha is heavy and cold. But kapha is also the mucus. So kapha is from the head into the chest, the lungs. And if you have a kapha imbalance, you're going to notice it in this part of the body, because that's where all the mucus is. And just like how ice is frozen in the winter, in the spring, it starts to thaw. And when it starts to thaw, that's when all the mucus comes out. That's when you need to do a cleanse. That's when, it's shedding all the things that we've stored up all winter, and we're preparing for the summer. So everything is leaking, if you will, and moving. And that's what you'll see that as the kapha. As if you don't move, it's going to settle, and it's going to cause a disturbance, and you'll get that mucus. You'll get that discomfort. So doshas also have age cycles. Here, if we're going to start with kapha, from baby to 13, and some say until age 20. So from baby to 13 or 20, you're in a kapha stage of life. And the reason why they say that is because kapha is building. You're building muscle, you're building memory, you're learning. It's, your bone structure's changing and growing, and that is the building foundation. So you're in a kapha stage of life. And you'll notice children, they're always runny, they're always snotty, they always are sticky. They have something going on, and that's also that kapha, that mucus, and they may not even be sick. They're just, shedding those, that lining, because they're being introduced to different things, but it's that kapha. Then we come to pitta, so anywhere between 13 or 20 up to 50-ish. And the pitta stage of life is when you're really learning, you're witty, you're learning, you're go, you're in the workforce, you're making things happen for you, you're determined to get things done. And I like how they say that it starts at 13, because not everybody starts their life at 20. I started working when I was 15, and I was go. And I really feel that was a pitta stage for me, organizing my room, getting things together for work, having a different sleep schedule. I was more determined on my life of what I wanted to do. And this is also the time when we have families, and you're strategizing, you're thinking, you're multitasking, you're providing, and this is all with pitta. Vata, we say 50 plus because some people can be from 50 to 60, they'll reach the vata stage. And you'll know because you'll have all these physical changes. Your hair might be getting, more sensitive or falling out. You might be getting drier skin. You can tell by the way that you're eating. You can't eat what you ate when you were 18. And you'll see this too. We also go through cycles with food. You can't eat Oreos and, Twinkies all day like you probably could as a kid, because your digestion could handle it. Your digestion can't handle it anymore, because as you age, that you're moving into that stage. So if I'm a vata, and I'm moving into the Vata stage of life, I have to take care because I will have more aggravation if I haven't taken care of myself through my Pitta years. If I haven't taken care of myself, you know, then it's really going to affect me when I get to my Vata years. That's why it's so important to take care of yourself as soon as you get the mindfulness to take care of yourself. To say, hey, I need to do some self-care. This stress isn't good for me. These things are going to be beneficial for me, because what's going to happen in the long run is you may not see it right now, but then you reach the Vata stage of life, and then you're going to be like, this really is affecting me. This is hitting me much harder than I thought it was going to hit me in this lifetime. And you want to be able to transition into these times and not have that pressure. And you'll see some that are out there living life. They're 70 years old and they're weightlifting, they're running, they're doing gymnastics, they're living life to the fullest. And it's because they've been taking care of themselves. And some of them changed at 50. They said, I didn't start working out until I was 50. You know, so I think there's one gentleman, I think he might have been like 60, and he started weightlifting. So you have time to do it, but it's going to hit you harder if you don't start doing it now, if you don't start taking care of yourself. And that's really, you know, starts off with just your day-to-day functions. So here, Vata, you'll see that there's a time of day between 2 and 6. This is either AM or PM, either one. That's when Vata rules. So it's a time that you would want to have a bowel movement. When you wake up, you need to have a bowel movement. It's also a time to wake up your senses. You want to drink some warm or hot water. It's a great time to study and meditate. So with the warm, hot water, you know, I like to talk about how if you have a clogged pipe, you're not going to pour cold water down that clogged pipe. You want to loosen the grime and the dirt. And it may not even be that clogged. It might just be a little bit. But if you get some nice boiling water and you pour it down that pipe to try to melt the grease, try to push it out, and, you know, that's what you would put down there. If you have a bathtub that's dirty and you want to clean it, you're not going to clean it with cold water. You're going to clean it with warm water, right? So you have to think about your insides the same way. When you wake up in the morning, you're drinking warm water or hot water to cleanse and to get the body awake, to move, because as you're sleeping at night, it's settling, right? It's digesting whatever was left over from the day. You have a lot of fluid in your body. So you're waking up, you're releasing that fluid out, you're drinking your hot water, and you're letting it, you know, cleanse itself. You have a lot of bacteria, right? Like I said, all these organisms inside and out. So it's a great time to drink that water. Great time to study. So there's a time of day that you can wake up before the sun rises. And in the fall and winter, that's really easy here because we're in New England and the sun, it's super dark at those times of year. So if you can wake up before the sun rises and give yourself some time to do some studying or some meditating. Even in Kundalini Yoga, we talk about how the quietest time to meditate is at between 3, well, some people get up at 3:30, but depending on the season and where the sun is, between 3:30 and 6:30, I think really 5 o'clock is the goal time. And that is when the Earth's electromagnetic field is at its quietest. That's when you can hear and feel. That's when you can really connect to your soul and to the ethers. So even here in an Ayurveda, they talk about that is the best time to wake up to meditate and to study, because it's the quietest and it's when you're most sattvic. It's when you're most calm and you have that connection. Then we move into Pitta time, which is between 10 and 2 a.m. or p.m. And this is when you should have your biggest meal of the day taken at noon. So when you wake up in the morning, your body is still sensitive. You've drank your water, you've probably made, let's say you had some oatmeal, and your body's functioning okay. Then you move into lunch. The sun is at the highest point of the day. So it's burning high. Think of that macro and micro. So if the sun is burning the hottest during the day at 12, then the sun, your digestive fire, is burning its hottest at 12 as well. So in order for you to digest the food that you need to, the heaviest meal should be at lunch, so your body can digest it better. And then you have the rest of the day to allow that digestion to go through, so you can, sleep well, wake up refreshed. Because if you've ever eaten a heavy meal before you've gone to bed or late at night, sometimes you don't sleep well, you wake up, you don't feel so great, you even might feel dehydrated. So it can make you just feel, bad. But a lot of people eat late at night because it helps them fall asleep, or they think it helps them fall asleep. But it's not good for your digestion or your body. So that's really when you should be having your biggest meal, is at noon or at that lunchtime, right? So, and this is also, like I said, the time for bed and to sleep. You should be going to bed by 10. I know that's hard for a lot of people, but if you're going to bed any later, sometimes you get snacky. If you stay up too late, you're like, oh, I'm hungry. I want to eat. I need some food. And then you start thinking, well, maybe I can get some work done. I could rearrange my bedroom tonight, because you've had a little energy, you've had a little snack, you want to get moving. And pitta is that transformation. It's that, that fire. So you just need to know that before you get to that stage, you should really go to sleep. And a lot of times we're staying up and we're binging TV, and that's also not the appropriate. So you need to make sure that you're getting the right amount of sleep so your body can heal. And so you can wake up at the vata time to start your day and do self-care, take care of yourself, meditate, do dinacharya, which we can talk about later, and move into your day. So now we have kapha. Kapha is between 6 and 10 a.m. or p.m. And this is a great time to move the body via exercise, to stimulate the mind with work, and also time for breakfast and dinner. So kapha is the settling. It's when you're the heaviest. So it's a great time to exercise. A lot of you will come to exercise here at the studio, whether you're doing martial arts or even just helping out. But this is a time when you're moving your body, that heaviness that's settling in. And you're also going to eat. So when you eat, you don't want to eat and then exercise or do yoga or whatever you're going to be doing. You need to be able to do your exercise first and then eat. That exercise will help boost up your digestion a bit. So that way during the slower time, this kapha time, the heaviness, you'll still be able to digest your food well. So the different types of ways you'll see vata. These people might be really tall or really short, and they'll be slim. They will have irregular appetites. So they could eat whenever, they could not eat. They just don't always feel hungry. They sleep lightly, and they may sleep, their sleep may be interrupted. They'll talk a lot, and they have a tendency towards gas and bloating when they do eat. They move fast, and they are active. They love warm heat, warm everything. Because vatas can feel really cold and dry, especially during the vata season, which we say is fall and winter. So they're also nervous and can have a restless mind, but they are also adaptable, which I can relate to because I have a lot of vata. I think I'm very good with the flow, very adaptable one way or the other, but I'm always moving. Pitta, they tend to have a medium frame of body. Their weight is not too light or too heavy, and they may have sensitive to light. Their eyes may be sensitive to light. They have an appetite and thirst in abundance and will prefer cold, sweet liquids. They're excellent at concentrating. They have a wit for learning. And they say pittas can go bald earlier in life from the hot body temperature or also from the heat on the head. If you're out in the sun and you're not wearing a hat or you're not covering your head, that it causes too much heat. It can also cause balding or hair loss. And also they say that you can have so much wisdom that it burns off the hair. So you'll see a lot of men, I would say more men that are balding, or even I know a lot of women too who are very, very wise, and they have thinner hair, very thin hair. And here also though, anger can easily arise. They can be critical and they can show judgment. So pittas have a lot of fire, and that fire can build up. And if it's not properly contained with the right nourishment, that anger comes up and they can be hot-tempered. So here, kapha, they're larger and denser bodies. For anybody who knows my partner, he would be a kapha. He is tall, not too tall, but he's larger, but he's dense. He's dense. So he's very heavy, even though he doesn't look like he's heavy. He's very heavy. There is a constant appetite, but will have a slower metabolism equaling a slower digestion. So weight can be hard to lose, but they're very loving and compassionate. And they might have excess saliva and mucus as well as lubrication. So the skin is more smooth and the hair is more oily. And what I mean by excess saliva, when you're eating or sleeping or, talking, you can just, see or taste, if you're kapha, that excess in your mouth of saliva. And you might be a combination, and we're going to get into that in a minute, of say kapha and pitta. So you could be dense, but have a appetite in abundance, but be able to lose the weight quickly. So this is where the doshas can be 1, 2, or 3 more dominant in the body. All right, so what is a balanced dosha? So a balanced dosha is one that's not vitiated, meaning that it's not faulty, it's not flawed. But dosha means flaw, it means fault. So your dosha, your dominant dosha, is the most likely one to become aggravated. So everybody is born with a dominant dosha or 2. There are tridoshic individuals as well. Everyone is born with a certain prakriti. Prakriti is our unique makeup resulting in our looks, function, and habits. And this is based on what doshas are more dominant. To keep the dosha in balance, you need to support them. By supporting your dosha type, you will have that help to keep that dis-ease at bay and think better, feel better, and function at optimal performance. Imbalanced doshas. So if a vata person or someone who has high, 1 or 2 dominant vata will have an imbalance if they have dry skin, they have anxiety, constipation, bloating and gas, fear, body pain, joint cracking, trouble sleeping, and nervousness. Pittas, the imbalance shows up as indigestion, skin issues, anger, short-tempered, hot or excess heat in the body, and they might have watery or loose bowel movements. Kapha will have mucus, depression, no motivation, a very slow Agni, which is our digestive fire, and this results in weight gain, edema, and lethargy. Edema is when you hold water in the body. So there are 7 types of constitutions. You could be Vata Pitta, you could be Pitta Vata, Pitta Kapha, Kapha Pitta, Vata Kapha, Kapha Vata, Vata Pitta Kapha. And what this means is that if you're Vata Pitta, then your Vata is the dominant. So when you take your dosha test, they'll ask you a series of questions, and you'll put this little number at the bottom and say there's 5 questions on each one, let's just say. And you answer 4 in Vata, 3 in Pitta, and 1 in Kapha. So then you're Vata Pitta. But if you answered 3 in Vata, 4 in Pitta and 1 in Kapha, then you're Pitta Vata. So that's how you know, because they're almost identical. And then you can also tell by someone's mannerisms, how they speak, not just how they look, so there's a lot of subtleties that go into finding out what your dosha is. So the quizzes, you have to answer truthfully. And sometimes it's hard. We can take a dosha quiz, you could answer it the way you think it is, but then you go see an Ayurvedic practitioner or health counselor, and they do an assessment, and they say, oh no, you're really this, because you see yourself a little differently than how, the identity of what really is. So you might not think you have big teeth, but then you have really big teeth. You may think that your hair's brittle, but it's really not that brittle. So you just, when you go through it, you have to look at it objectively and not how you feel. Really look at it. Before we move on to the next section, does anybody have any questions regarding the dosha portion that we've covered? Wonderful. Okay. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. I know this is a topic that is, like I said, it's a lot to take in when it's new to you, but it's something to open up your mind, open up the availability for new learning, and to learn about how we can digest and be healthy. So here we have Agni. What is Agni? So Dr. Vincent Ladd, he describes Agni as the digestive metabolic fire that governs the digestion, absorption, assimilation, and transformation of food. There are several types of Agni, but the main and most important Agni is called Jatra Agni. This is the heat and fire that's mainly in the stomach. There are 15 main Agnis in the body, but every organ and all functions, gross and subtle, have an Agni. When I say gross, I mean like dense, or a body. So they all have an Agni because everything needs it. Agni is life fire. If you don't have Agni, you're dead. Agni is the spark that allows our body to function, allows that spark to have our connection with our soul. And it's the spark that lights every cell, every thought. Agni is what is the electrocution. It's the kiss from God that allows us to be here. I think that's the best way I can say it. So qualities of Agni, they are hot, dry, sharp, light, subtle, spreading, and fragrant. And you can think of that, that kiss of the heavens, it's like that, electricity, right? It's hot, it's sharp, it's dry, light, subtle, it's spreading, just like electricity. That's what it is in our body. It's that dynamic heat. So you can see this in the body as body temperature, how food gets broken down, the molecular digestion, regular digestion and absorption, how it travels through capillaries and cells, and maintains optimal liquid and gives taste to food. So Agni is probably the most interesting thing I can think of. I mean, it's really fascinating that our bodies can work as well as they do. And how does it work, right? Through that electricity of our fire of Agni. So things that can cause your Agni to be weak would be eating before bed or eating too late or at the wrong time. A lot of these are around food right now. Improper food combinations. And Agni is going to lower, if you have a weak Agni, you're not going to be able to digest anything. So if you do any of these things, you're looking at it and you think, well, these are mainly about digestion, not about the life fire that runs through us. But if the Agni is weak, these things are going to lower it even more. Or these habits will lower the Agni and then allow for improper digestion. So we have improper food combinations, which would be like fruit and yogurt. Everybody eats fruit and yogurt, but it's a really bad food combination. Yogurt, fruit should be eaten really by itself. It is fast digesting, and it's not something that really should be mixed with other things, and they should be categorized together. It's like if you're going to eat berries, you should eat berries together. Watermelon really should be alone, but you could eat with other melons. You know what I mean? You don't want to go eat a banana and blueberries, which I think a lot of people do. And you don't want to put fruit in your milk, right? So smoothies, cereal, people put bananas in their cereal all the time. They're drinking, smoothies, and they're mixing the fruit in the milk. And these are bad. This is actually improper food combination. So eating while working, I think a lot of people do that. That is like one of the things that people do all the time. And I'm not going to lie. I'm one of those people who eat while working or eat while multitasking. That's not something I plan on doing, but the day gets ahead of you and then you're like, I got to eat and do this. And that is going to cause an imbalance. We also have drinking iced drinks while eating. So here in the United States, everybody goes out to a restaurant and gets iced water with their meals. For years, a good 15 years, I don't do that. I just get room temperature water. I don't put ice in my drinks. I think it started with the sensitivity in my mouth, and it was just always so cold, but it slows down your digestion. So when you put food into your mouth and you're eating, you need that digestive fire to cook your food. And then you end up taking a drink of ice cold water. It's the same way as if you're boiling a pot of soup on the stove and then you add ice cold water to it. What's going to happen? It's not going to boil anymore. Then you have to have it come back up to a boil. So it's the same aspect if you were adding cold water, cold drinks while eating. So grazing throughout the day, this is something that, a lot of people do. They're like, I got to eat every couple hours. But if you graze throughout the day, then your body hasn't had a chance to digest the food that you already ate. It starts to cook the food that's in the belly and starts to digest it. And before it can start really cooking it and absorbing the nutrients, it has to move back up to heat the new food that's coming in. So then you have undigested, fully cooked food traveling through, your intestines, and you won't be able to grab the proper nutrients out of there because the body didn't have enough time to work on it because it had to go cook this new food, if you will. When I say cook, obviously the food's probably already cooked, but you know what I mean? The body is heating it, it's processing it, it's absorbing it. Then we have overeating. So this can totally balance out, ruin our Agnis. During the holiday season, everybody is going to parties, they're sitting with family, Thanksgiving, they're getting 2 or 3 platefuls. And then how do you feel? Yes, they're eating turkey and there's tryptophan and they're probably going to sleep, but also because they're overstuffing themselves and, it's draining and the body can't process it all. And so it makes you tired, it makes you sluggish. They're unconsciously eating or not being mindful when eating. So you could just be eating for emotions. You're feeling that, I'm having a really stressful time. I'm just going to reach for this chocolate, or I'm just going to, grab these snacks that are around me and I'm just going to eat that way. So you're not eating consciously. You're not mindfully eating. You're not saying, oh, I'm really thankful for this soup that I have today, because that's going to nourish me and heal me. And I know that as I take in every bite, how nourishing this is going to be for me. So instead, you might just be hurrying through and eating that soup and didn't give thanks or gratitude for the moment that you had to sit to eat. Skipping meals. Now, Vatas, they have irregular appetites and they may want to skip meals, but skipping meals isn't great because then your body, will start, we always say it would start eating at itself. And it would, because it's not getting the energy and the life force that it needs. And over time, if you skip a lot of meals, it's going to start eating away at the important nutrients that your body needs to hold on to continue to grow and to be. Standing while eating. A lot of people do this. They go to food trucks. They're out there. They're standing. They're eating. They're doing things. So you need to make sure that you are taking time to be mindful in your eating, that you're sitting, that you're allowing your body to rest. So it's not actively working, and that you can eat properly. Eating leftover or old food. Eating leftover foods, I think, is a thing that people do all the time. They meal prep for the week, but as the food sits, it starts to lessen the amount of nutrients that are in there. If you cut into a piece of vegetable, like a zucchini or something, you put it in the fridge for a couple days and you go back to it, there's always part of it. You can see it's already started to, change. The structure has already started to change. You cut off some of the ends and you're like, oh, the middle still looks kind of good, but it's starting to change. So the more you cook it and let it sit longer, or even if it's raw and you're not eating it, it's going to start to lose its nutrients after a while, just like any food would if it sits out. So old food and leftover food, you really want to eat as fresh as possible. And if it's going to be leftovers, maybe just like one day, but meal prepping, I went and prepped for 5 or 6 days. And then by the last day, your food's not going to have the same flavor. It's not going to have the same taste. It's not going to be as nutrient for you. Taking in GMOs, we want to try to avoid taking in any genetically modified organisms. You really want to eat healthy. We don't know exactly the long-term effects of that completely just yet, but we know so far that it's not great. Not eating for your dosha type. If you're eating, so we're going to get into this a little bit more. So I'm going to stop here. I'm just going to say it because we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Meal replacements. When you're eating energy bars and protein shakes, that's not great for you, right? You're not getting the proper nutrients. And by doing that, you're also not eating consciously. And it's a lot of them are improper food combinations. Drug addictions, including smoking and alcohol, will definitely imbalance your Agni. Suppression of natural urges. This would be like sneezing, going to the bathroom. Some people hold that in. They're like, I'm at work, I can't go, whatever. And you hold it in. That's bad. Not good for your system. It really messes up your vata. Yes. Yes, definitely. So crying, if you hold back your crying, or if you feel a burst of anger coming up, you don't want to hold it in. Maybe hit the bag a few times and try to let it out, but don't want to hold the emotional in either. You need to express yourself. Even if you go out to the woods and you scream it out, or you write it out on paper, or however it is, you don't want to hold that in. And it also goes for, passing gas. A lot of people are embarrassed to do that, but I think it's like, you have to do it. You see those older people walk around the grocery store and they just toot their way through the stores. And, they may not be able to help it, but it's good that they don't hold it in. It's important that you let yourself, release these. You hold it in, you're going to cause an issue, and any doctor will tell you so. Here we have certain types of weather can upset your Agni. And you'll see this because like Vata is going to upset my Agni because I'm very Vata. I have a Vata imbalance. I'm Vata Pitta. I have a Vata imbalance. And the weather and during Vata time will certainly upset my Agni. So I have to take care of myself. I have to do a lot of self-care. I have to prepare before the season hits. And then during the season, really take care of myself, eating right, doing self-care. So that way it doesn't affect my Agni. But you'll also see that when the sky is gray, like I talked about with lunchtime, the sun is high in the sky. That's when it's burning the highest. That's when you're supposed to have your biggest meal. But you'll also see when the sky is gray, cloudy, and heavy, that at that time that could slow down your Agni. And or for instance, if the sun is hot, your Agni may not need to burn as hot because it's like it's really hot outside, it's really hot here. I'm too hot. I don't want to overload myself. So the Agni quiets itself down and allows your digestive fire to not be as strong. And that's where eating that watermelon would come in because it's a lighter food. And you can eat heavier in the wintertime when it's your fire is like, I got to keep warm because it's so cold out. So it's going to build itself up to keep you warmer. Then we have emotional factors. Anxiety, fear, worry, nervousness, and anger will all upset or imbalance Agni. And then the wrong Panchakarma treatment. Panchakarma is a body work. So like oil massages and things like that. If you're doing that at the wrong time, or it's the wrong treatment for your dosha, or your Agni is not prepared to digest that type of effect, then it can upset and imbalance your Agni. And we'll talk more about that too. So imbalanced Agni will show up as bloating, a bad taste in the mouth, belching the taste of yesterday's food. You'll feel sluggish and tired, unhealthy skin with discoloration, and any opposites of a healthy Agni. And you might say, what's a healthy Agni? Well, a healthy Agni would be a normal thirst and common hunger, a clean tongue, meaning that there's no white residue. When you wake up in the morning, we do tongue scraping in Ayurveda, and I've been doing it for years before I even got into Ayurveda. And if you scrape your tongue in the morning and there's a lot of white coating on it, that means that you have ama in the body. And we're going to talk about ama in a minute. So if your tongue is nice and clean and it doesn't have that heavy white residue, then that's healthy Agni. Your body's digesting things the way it's supposed to. That you have bowel movements with no constipation or diarrhea. And we're going to talk about bowel movements a little later too, because it's very important. That you have a healthy mental state and clarity. You have strength, vigor, charisma, and that healthy glow. That's all healthy Agni. So there are 4 types of Agni that we're going to talk about today. Vishama Agni, that means it's irregular. The appetite is irregular. It is all over the place because the Agni is not firing properly. You will experience indigestion, constipation, gas, and bloating. Also, you can feel heavy after eating, have intestinal gurgling and bubbling, and your skin and mouth may be dry. You can have anxiety and fear. And, you can eat, if you're eating irregular and your Agni is not firing properly, and then you go to eat, and then you're lying there and you just feel this dryness in your mouth. Yes, Kyle? So it may not, well, I guess it all depends on how you're eating, but having a lot of anxiety is a sign of vata. So that the vata is that movement in the mind. So we can talk more about that later if you'd like. And we might touch a little bit more about it here. But yeah, anxiety and panic attacks and things like that, that type of movement is normally caused from a vata imbalance. But it can also be caused from the Vishama Agni, depending on your, how you're eating. So we can talk more about that later for sure, privately if you'd like. So that way we can make sure we touch all the aspects of what's going on. Then we have Tikshna Agni, which is hypermetabolism. Tikshna is the appetite will be strong, and you'll notice these are similar to Vata and Pitta and Kapha. So here the appetite will be strong, and the feeling of being hypoglycemic is present if you don't eat in a timely manner. So you might be feeling really hungry and then get that feeling like you're just shaky and sweaty and you're going to pass out if you don't eat. So the hypermetabolism. There is also heartburn, nausea, and possible vomiting when you have this type of Agni. The stools are loose. You may have fevers, rashes, and aggressiveness are common signs. Many skin disorders will show up, including acne, like rashes on the skin, eczema, things like that. There may be a craving for control and noticed irritability. So this is like that Pitta. Pitta wants to have control. They want to be able to do it when they want to do it. And this is the same thing with the Agni. And we'll take a short 5-minute bio break if we need to in just a moment. So we have Manda Agni, which is hypometabolism. So it's a low fire Agni that's present with a poor appetite. The digestion is slow and you will feel heavy in the stomach, even if you have not had any food. So going with that heaviness, you have items related to kapha dosha, excessive saliva, congestion, and nausea, bloating, excessive sleep, cold, wet skin, edema, and be overweight. So this is where allergies can happen, hypertension, you'll be bored, greed could show up, but this all leads to depression. It all leads to spicy food and alcohol. And if you look at the spicy food and the alcohol, it's more of a stimulation. You know, you're craving some kind of stimulation because you have excess settlement, excess that you need to, that you're trying to move, but you're not moving it in the right way for your dosha. So the spicy and the alcohol may not be, that's just going to make the Manda Agni worse. It's going to make it slower. Now, a balanced Agni, the Sama Agni, this is a normal appetite. This is normal digestion, regular and proper elimination, and good health. Normal immunity shows high energy, good blood pressure, and sleeps well. The mind is clear and calm, and there's enjoyment to life. This person lives a healthier and longer life. So there are 7 types of dual Agni types, just like we had 7 types of the constitutions, they're Prakritis. So you may have a little bit of 1 or 2 of these digestion issues. So here again, we have Vishama and Tikshna Agni, and you'll see this more related 80% of the time, if not more, at least 80% of the time, Vishama, Tikshna Agni will be present in Vata, Pitta, Dosha types. So for Tikshna, Vishama, you'll see that in the Pitta, Vata constitution. And then Tiksha Manda, which would be the Pitta Kapha. So you can kind of see how it goes along here. Manda Tikshna, Manda being slow, the heavier, that's the Kapha. The Tikshna being the sharp, that's the Pitta. And then again, the Manda and the Vishama, so the slow and then that irregular, you'll see it more in Kapha Vata. And the Vishama Manda for Vata Kapha. Vishama Tiksha Manda Agni, that's just the tridoshic way of saying, you know, people that are Vata Pitta Kapha will most likely have this type of digestion. So once you find out your dosha, then you can look at these Agni types and see which one fits you. Maybe you already know that I have this one or these 2 Agni types, and that can give you a little hint that possibly that could be what your dosha is. But, you know, we don't know it yet until we do a full analysis. But just to give you an idea for when you go do your test, what it might be. So do we have any questions regarding Agni or the digestive fire? Let's take a brief bio break. Once you stand up, stretch, walk around. I have some tea that's off to the side. It's, I always say it's rhubarb. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, with a little chai type spice in it. It is caffeine free with almond milk. It's a little cinnamon, ginger, and cardamom. So if you would like to get a small taste, and I'm just going to pause this for a moment and we'll be back at 11:05. Okay, so we'll start to come back. I'm going to just reshare my screen here. All right, so we moved on from our questions. So now we're going to go into Ama. Ama is the buildup of toxins and impurities in the body and mind, and anything that cannot be digested, absorbed, and assimilated. Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me online? I just want to make sure. Okay, perfect. I want to make sure it's still connected. So let's repeat that. So Ama is the buildup of toxins, impurities in the body and mind, and anything that cannot be digested, absorbed, and assimilated. And I think this is really important because digested emotions and thoughts, our sensory organs taking all that in, the food that we're taking in, if it can be absorbed and assimilated, and anything that's not, that's stored physically, mentally, emotionally, is going to cause ama if it can't be, digested, absorbed, and assimilated. So having this ama will cause low Agni, or having low Agni will cause ama because you won't have that fire to digest it. You won't have the way to handle it. They do say that you could eat 80% of the time, healthy, and 20% of the time, a little off your normal schedule. And if you have a high Agni, your Agni is functioning properly, that it will be able to handle that change so that you don't have ama. But you have to have the healthy balance of your Agni first. So reasons why you could have a low Agni that causes the ama, you get an aggravated dosha, meaning that, you have that vitiated dosha type. Improper food combinations, eating emotionally and trying to ingest food during the wrong time. For instance, lunch at noon, instead you're having lunch at 3, and then you're going to have dinner at 5, so that's too close together. You're not going to be able to digest it all the way, like I said before. So, you want to make sure that, or even eating food at bedtime, and then you're going to sleep. Your body's, so the circadian rhythm, your body starts stopping that major digestive fire and starts to cool down for the night. So when the later you eat, or the closer to bedtime that you eat, not only is it going to sit in there all night, not being able to be cooked and fired, and that's going to cause ama, but then you're going to wake up feeling sluggish and in pain or dehydrated. So really eating late or before bed is not great. You want to eat at least 3 hours before bedtime. But if you can give yourself more, because your body digests as food, they say it moves out of the stomach into the intestines about 3 hours. So, but it takes 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours for your body to digest just one thing that you're eating. So if you're eating your dinner really late, and then you're going to go to bed, it's not going to have time to digest properly. And that's definitely going to cause ama. So, and then we did talk back on slide 24 about all the different ways that could cause imbalanced Agni. And that is also related here, that could cause ama. So basic symptoms of ama in the body consist of fatigue, heaviness, indigestion, poor appetite, lack of taste in food and in life. So many times people say, I just don't have a taste for life right now, and that is a reflection of ama. If ama mingles with your dosha, that dosha may increase. So if your vata is already vitiated, and then you have a lot of ama and it mingles with it, then you would have extra constipation, decreased agni, dry skin, bloating, bubbling, aches and pains, and fatigue, which you may already have if you had the vitiated, vata. But say it's not that vitiated, but then the ama still mixes with it. Here for the pitta, you would have decreased agni, less appetite, acid indigestion, feeling fatigued, feverish, nauseous. Rashes may be present, and loose stools or diarrhea. And for kapha, you would have sticky phlegm, less appetite, lower agni, fatigue, cold, cough, and congestion, and the lymph may swell and be tender with pain. And you can also see ama affecting the body's waste products like sweat, urine, and feces. Sweat, you would have more of a stench and more of a stickiness to it. The urine could be darker. You could have bacteria or different, properties to it when reviewed or looked at. And then also feces, you could see mucus in your feces as well. So you could see it come out in your bodily waste functions. One thing that you'll notice here, that when it mingles with your dosha, it decreases your agni. It lowers your agni in all 3 of these. So something to note too is that when you have ama and it mingles with your dosha, it lowers your agni. It decreases it. So you're not going to have that digestive fire. It's kind of like a thick coating that's over your digestive fire, and it's not able to burn enough. So you won't be able to digest, anything, food, emotions, life, right? So the ama is worse. And how does food play a part in the balance and imbalance? Well, there are certain foods that help to pacify your dosha, and having a routine for your dosha type is important in pacification, but eating the foods that support your dosha and your digestion will help support your Agni. You want to eat foods that are the opposite qualities of your dosha. It is a delicate balance, and the word that I have here in quotations is depends, because it really depends on your state of mind. It really depends on, the state of your body, what foods you can take in, because you can be eating for your dosha, but your Agni is weak and it won't be able to digest those foods. You could be eating the healthiest food and it won't be able to digest it because your Agni is too weak to cook it. So your dominant dosha will most likely be the imbalanced. It can be every once in a while that your dominant dosha is not the flawed or imbalanced one, but normally 95% of the time, that's the way it is. Remember that like attracts like. So if you have a lot of mucus, here I have congestion and you eat a lot of sweets, it's going to increase that congestion. If you have really dry skin and you're eating rice crackers all day and, you're eating things that are very drying and astringent and, it's going to dry you out even more. You're taking, you know what I mean? So you have to look at the qualities of the food that you're eating and the qualities of your body and the qualities, all around you, that macro again with the weather. So just remember that like attracts like. And just because you crave it doesn't mean it's necessarily what you need. Sometimes your body's craving something because it's trying to attract the same likeness. You have a lot of mucus, so it's like, I want cheese so I can be more mucusy. But cheese is probably not what you need at that time. At that time, maybe having a rice cracker is the better option to try to help dry you out. So start thinking about your own diet and the qualities of food you take in, and you may see where you might need to make some changes. So here, the qualities of vata are light, cold, mobile, dry, rough, subtle, and clear. So to pacify vata, if you're having a vata imbalance or, you're having that dry skin, the anxiety, things like that, you want to calm it down by eating sweet, sour, and salty foods. And you would see that as wheat, oats, rice, tofu, mung beans, sweet potatoes, squash, avocado, ghee, which is clarified butter, sesame. I put in like in brackets tahini, because how can you get a lot of sesame in? You could get tahini, put it on some toast with some avocado. You got a really good vata pacifying there. Dates and figs. For pitta, that quality, we've talked about that, right? So it's hot, it's penetrating, it's slightly unctuous, it's light, has a strong odor, it's free-flowing and fluidity. So here you need sweet, bitter, and astringent. So cucumbers, carrots, zucchini, cilantro, barley, wheat, mung beans, watermelon, coconut, grapes, apples. So that's just these are just some of the aspects that you can eat to pacify. Obviously, there's a lot more. So this is a test when you go to the grocery store or when you're going to the farmer's market later today, or wherever, look at the food quality that you're taking in and see how your body is, what state your body is in. And then notice after you eat, how you feel. In Ayurveda, we cook all our food. Very, very, very rare is anything ever eaten raw. Everything's cooked, even the water. Boil the water, it becomes a lighter function. So everything's cooked because you wanted to have the most digested food that you can take into your body so your Agni can cook it, absorb it, transform it, get those nutrients, and let it go quickly. You don't want it to be heavy and sitting in the body because we're looking to be more sattvic. We don't want to be all tamasic, being heavy and dull. We want to be lighter, but not so light that you have a vata imbalance. Here we have kapha, which is heavy, dull and slow, cold, unctuous, slimy, smooth, dense, soft, static, gross, sticky, and cloudy. So things to pacify vata, if you're having a vata imbalance, especially, or just a vata dosha, you would want to eat things that are pungent, bitter, and astringent, like kale and cranberries. I mean, you could do like a beautiful like quinoa, kale, and cranberry salad. I mean, like put together. I mean, that just sounds so good, actually. Sweet potatoes, I would say sweet potatoes for myself because I have that vata. But here we go. We got mung beans, honey, chickpeas, cauliflower, millet, lentils, oranges, mustard oil, and horseradish. So you can see how some of those are pungent, bitter, and astringent. And kapha can eat things that other people can't. You know, they can have that cauliflower, where cauliflower is going to upset vata because it's very gassy. It makes too much gas in the body when vatas are already, you know, experiencing too much gas and bloating. And they can eat things that are really dry, like millet. And they can have, you know, that horseradish, which pitta probably shouldn't have because it's too fiery. It's too hot. Pittas are already too hot, and we want to bring their temperature down a little bit. So they want more cooling. You know, horseradish can be good for kapha. It gets things moving. It gets that mucus to come out. So, any questions regarding that? So the importance of a bowel movement. So does everybody, I mean, some people are touching on the subject, but you should be having a bowel movement every day. You know, every morning when you wake up, that's really when you should be having it, because you should be cleansing out the body, getting rid of all the stuff from the day before. And drinking that warm and hot water is really going to be beneficial. That's what's going to take that and, you know, push it out. So having a proper bowel movement. So you need exercise to move the apana. Apana is one of 5 subdoshas of vata. Apana is the energy that resides in the lower abdomen, the colon. It's it allows everything to be pushed out. So when we do yoga, especially in the morning, if you're waking up at that vata time to do self-care, you're doing light yoga and movement to stimulate the channels, open up, you know, everything, and allow it to release anything that is stuck in there, such as your bowel movement. So exercise is needed. You'll find that if you take your dog outside and you run your dog in a circle and they run, and then they do a bowel movement, you know, sorry, we have just gonna submit somebody here. So that is, you know, that's them having their exercise and then having their bowel movement. So you need to move the body to allow that to happen. Then we have, you can have a bowel movement in the morning, and it can also be beneficial to have it after every meal. I don't know a lot of people that have a bowel movement after every meal. You want to at least have one bowel movement a day. And then you can tell a lot of the state of your digestion by how it looks. Again, this isn't a topic that a lot of people talk about. You don't want to look at their bowel movement, but it's important. You know, here, if you skip down a line, healthy stool floats. But if there's ama or fat in the stool, it would still float and it could still have ama in it. So you have to be able to look at it and see, is this healthy stool or is this fatty stool that has ama in it? But if there's ama in your stool, it'll fall to the bottom of the toilet bowl. If there's severe ama, then the feces stick to the bowl. So when you go to flush, you'll see there's still some in there. You got to get the toilet bowl and kind of clean it out. So that's when you know you have severe ama. But constipation can happen if you have the irregular diet, right? You have that Vishama Agni. You have a regular diet, the Vishama Agni, then and even the slow Manda Agni, you can have the constipation. So if your Agni is slow and you're not able to release the waste from the body, ama will accumulate in the mind. So your mind will be clouded and dull, resulting in irritation and anxiety. I don't know how many of you have ever been backed up or, you know, constipated or just, you know of anybody who's having a really hard time, you know, cramping and upset, but then they have anxiety. And then you have that saying, they're full of crap. Well, they really could be so full of crap that they can't think straight. They can't process anything because their body isn't able to digest the things that they're taking in. We talked about those sensory organs, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, your skin. Your body can't take in and absorb everything properly if it's not able to release. Same thing with emotions. If you're holding in that emotion, it's not going to be, and you're not releasing it out, you know, it's going to cause that ama. So, which is going to result in the slow Agni. Any questions regarding that? Ama is just a short part. Yes? Yeah.
Respectful of this space.
Yeah. So for those online who probably didn't hear, One of the people here were talking about how when she's at a friend's house, her digestion is off, bowel movements are the same, but is it that you're not eating enough, or that you feel that you just can't relax in someone else's environment? Little both.
Well, listen,
Anxiety. Yeah. So yeah. And yeah. And I think that goes back to a little bit what we were talking about too, about even just passing gas. You don't want to pass gas in front of somebody. You don't want to go into their bathroom, or, eat all their food, or, do certain things. You're trying to be respectful of their place and their time. And being in a different environment definitely can cause anxiety. And I think anxiety happens one or two ways. Either you're too worried about something and a bowel movement happens, like you're too stressed, you're too thinking, and you're too scared or worried, and you have that reaction where you have to have a bowel movement. And then other times that constipation happens, and it stays stuck in until you go home, and then you're relaxed and your body can just let go. So your body knows, it holds that tension. But I could say that. Yeah. And I think that that's the hard part. That's what we were saying earlier about, how a routine is so important for pacifying your dosha, because you need to be able to, count on that. A lot of people their dosha will get imbalanced, or their Agni will become weak because they start they get off their schedule, they go out with friends, family, holidays happen, everybody's traveling. And I can see that. Actually, we're going to talk a little bit about that here in digestion in the next part. So what is digestion? Digestion is the process where the mind and the body look at everything we take in, processes it, takes what it can use, and gets rid of what it cannot. So, and remember, here I say we're the mind and body, because digestion is just not about what we eat, it's about everything else. So food that we take in goes through our digestion, and we all know this process. So our body starts taking digestion in the mouth, into the stomach, down into the intestines, and what is not able to be used is eliminated from the body through the colon. We also digest emotions and thoughts on a vast spectrum. If our mind is strong, clear, happy, meditatively neutral, then we can digest foods easier, even if our Agni is weak. So that says a lot. If you're a happy person, if you're happy and you have a clear mind and you're going through life and you feel very strong, you can eat things that other people can't eat, even if your Agni is weak. Now, will it cause ama? Yes, it could probably cause ama for sure, but your body is still able to digest it. So there's something to say about, repeating, mantras or affirmations, or being happy with yourself in your situation, even if you're in a tough spot, even if you're not exactly content on everything, but you're just happy to be alive. You're happy the sun's out. You have gratitude for the day. That's going to help you eat the food, even if your Agni is weak. So having that proper mind, that mindset. And I think that goes for work too. You'll be able to digest your food if you put a good mindset on your work. If you complain all the time about your work not being, there for you, and that you're struggling there, or you're not happy there, then you're not going to be able to digest your food because you're really unhappy at work. But if you can make your work environment happy for yourself, I'm so happy I'm able to help these people today. I'm so happy that I was able to have the life lessons that I learned today, either through seeing them through somebody else or through myself. Then you'll be able to bring that sattvic mindset to you, and you'll be happier, clearer, and be able to eat that food again, even if your Agni is weak. So, but eating the right foods doesn't always work. We talked about this. If you're eating the best food in the world, if your Agni is too weak, you won't be able to digest it. So digestion, there were a lot of factors, and it's different for each individual. And we talked about this too. It depends on your constitution. It depends on your Agni. It depends on the state of you and your mind. So Where is your dosha? Is your dosha vitiated? Is your Agni weak? Or do you have really good Agni? Is the state of your mind and your body unhealthy, or are you happy? So it really depends on these three aspects, and it's different for each person. Let's not forget about the digestion of everything we see, and I've reiterated this a lot already, but these areas hugely get overloaded daily, especially being connected to your phone and your computer and being at work. So it's everything we hear, see, touch, taste, and smell has to be digested. And digestion is just not the process of how food gets assimilated, absorbed, transformed, and eliminated. It's how our sensory organs receive, process, hold onto, and get rid of information. Why do we meditate? We're clearing out the subconscious. We're getting rid of that stuff, right? So taking in a daily practice of meditation helps your digestion. I think that that's an awesome way to tell somebody, hey, let's allow you to digest everything you take in today better by starting your day off with some meditation. Even if it's just for 7 minutes, let's start off with some pranayama. Let's clear this out so we can digest and process what we need to. Everything we take in can either be prana or it can be dis-ease. And prana, with a big P, that life force, if we are constantly looking at the news and we're seeing negative news all day long, that's going to affect us. That's bringing in, not good prana, and it's going to change our Agni and might cause ama. It's going to hold on into that sensory area. Everything we hear, if you're listening to music, one of my old yoga teachers, Maharishi, he used to talk about how people would have on repeat the Rolling Stones, I can't get no satisfaction. What type of mantra is that bringing to you that you're listening over and over again, that you can't get no satisfaction? So you won't be satisfied in life. So think about what you're listening to, what you're looking at, what you're applying to your body, what you're tasting. Make sure that these are all things that are life-giving forces, so that way you can feel and be happier and be able to digest and have a strong Agni. Bless you. Bless you. So stress is a result of overload, and if Agni is weak, we will not be able to process much. We need to stop and stretch, walk, meditate, be in nature, ground ourselves, go within, be in silence, and stop overusing our sensory organs. We need to power down and charge up. I think that if somebody was doing a behavior over and over and over again that we knew was harming them, we would say, we need to have an intervention, we need to talk, we need to get you on the right path. This is the same thing. If you are doing something that's overloading your sensory organs, that is causing anxiety, depression, fear, clouded mind, it's disrupting you, that is the same thing. You're making yourself sick and you're not being mindful on the actions to stop it. So if that happens, then, all this pain, the stress will set in and you'll have depression, anxiety, pain, and the disease will eventually occur. We talked about that, how it comes into an energetic level and then it comes in closer and closer until that energy sets into the body. Those thoughts, the food that we take in, it'll set into the body and become disease. And then you will need Western medicine intervention, because at that time you will have passed the 4th stage. They say there's 6 stages in Ayurveda, and 1 through 4 can be healed. Come 5, you're seeking medical attention, and 6 is no coming back. So, you really have to be mindful on everything that you're taking in. The prana is not just so we can be healthy and happy. It's more than that. You don't want the prana to be a bad influence of like drugs and alcohol, because then you can have that overstimulation. You have people who are addicted to, let's say, porn sites, and they do get addicted to that, and it becomes a sensation, and they, want to just have that instant gratification. And to each their own and what they want to do. Everybody's here on a different life cycle, and life is a big school, and we're not all in the same grade. So everybody has a different lesson to learn in a different time frame in a different lifetime. So, you can't tell anybody that what they're doing is necessarily wrong because it's a lesson that they're learning in their lifetime. What we're saying is that there are ways to being healthier and happier, and you can use this technology to have longevity, to be healthy and happy, not be so stressed. But there are a lot of avenues. There's a lot of spectrums that you have to look at and analyze and look at yourself and think, is this really, bringing me health and vitality, or is this draining and causing me sickness? We also have the factor of our environment. Our home, our work, and our city shows a lot about what's going on inside us as well. If our home is cluttered and dusty and dirty, our mind is most likely cluttered, dusty, and dirty. Now, there's some people who like the chaos of that, and they know where everything is, everything's in their spot, and they feel comfortable in that. It doesn't always mean that their mind isn't, at peak performance, but it says a lot about what could be going on around them. So it's important to take pride in what you have. And just like you clean your body, you clean your mind, you clean your car, you should clean the rest of the environment. And this also goes for the people that are in it. So if you're living with people or working with people who are toxic, try to limit your interaction with them, because that toxicity also, you're feeding off of, and you don't need that. So you have to really, again, look at all these different spectrums and see. Do we have any questions before we move on? I know we're touching on a lot of different things, and it's a lot to take in, especially for anybody who's new to Ayurveda. This is an intro, session, and it's something you may have to hear over and over and over again. But just opening your knowledge today to it is going to be very beneficial. So how the gut plays a part to wellness. So there are more connections going from the gut to the brain than the brain to the gut. So really, the gut should be considered the first brain, because the gut is telling all the organs what to do. It's giving all the information to the brain to tell the organs what to do. So really think about the food that you're taking in is nourishing your brain, nourishing what should be your first brain. And studies are finding that the gut microbiome is so important to our physical and mental health, that some anxieties and depression are because your gut bacteria is off. And we know this through Ayurveda, because we know that if your Agni is weak and you're not able to digest things, and then you have Ama, it's going to throw off the bacteria in your body, and you're not going to be able to process things right, and then it's going to cause that Ama to go up. So, and if you don't have proper elimination, that we talked about that Apana, it's not going to push anything out. It might be sitting in the body and even try to come up a little bit and go into the mind. So it's really important for physical and mental health to have a good gut biome. That's why it's so important to eat what's local. It's good to eat in season, and it's good to eat whole, unprocessed food and less sugar. And that would be what we would need to eat for proper support for our dosha. So healthy food to support that gut. But we also need the proper habits to ensure we can digest everything we're confronted with. So that food, that energy, sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. Things that can interrupt your gut balance. Well, we talked about age, right? You can't eat at 50 what you ate when you were 18, because your gut's changed. It's just different. You don't have the same micro biome that's in there. You're moving into that vata stage of life. You have to change the things that you're eating to support how you're moving into a different, even though your prakriti is staying the same, you're moving into a different stage of life. Stress, the number one disease builder and sickness builder. Stress will definitely upset your gut. You get that sour taste in your belly when something goes wrong. Stress is really, I think, if you look at all of these things, it's stress on the body. So age causes stress. Medicines, travel, that's stressful. It's stressful to travel. It's stressful on the body for you to take medicines. medicines like antibiotics, which are going to throw off your gut microbiome anyway. So that's why people end up taking like pre or probiotics and, things like that because they are, but I would do like kimchi or something that was going to be more natural than popping a pill that may or may not be, working. Do something that's going to support you for your dosha and your gut. But these are all pretty much stresses. Processed food, that puts a stress on the body, but there's no real nutrients and it's a lot of chemicals. That's definitely going to change the gut. Low fiber, not being able to have enough fiber to clean everything out. Low diverse food. So you want to eat locally, but you want to expand it out. Eat color, beets, red, kale, green, carrots, orange, or sweet potatoes. Add these colors in the different types of food. So you need grains and you want to have vegetables, root vegetables, and fruits, and you have a diverse amount. Zucchini, let's bring it all in. You've got leeks, lentils, beans. So eat a high diverse amount of food, but as much as you can local. Take out high sugar. You don't want to have a lot of sugar. If you need sugar, you can use coconut sugar, jaggery, something that has more nutrients in it. And these are just to name a few things that can disrupt the gut balance. So we're going to come back to Ayurveda's goal. Ayurveda's goal is to have one who is established in self, who has the balanced doshas, balanced Agni. Again, that's that digestive fire. Properly formed dhatus, proper elimination of waste, well-functioning bodily processes, and whose mind, soul, and senses are full of bliss is called a healthy person. And again, that is samadosha, sama agnishka, sama dhatu malakriya, prasa natman indriya mana, svasta, iti abhidhyate. Got it down. So that is the Ayurveda. I just wanted to go back really quick here. And talk more about the dosha, because I feel like when your dosha is, when you think that your dosha is going to be flawed, you want to really embrace the dosha. Don't look at it as, oh, I'm vata pitta, so I'm always going to have vata, imbalance, or I'm going to be higher at having a pitta imbalance. This also goes back to what we were talking about, thinking of things in a clear and happy way, coming into it and saying, okay, I'm this type of dosha. These are my great qualities of it. A lot of times when we're talking about how, things are faulty, but what are the good things about having these dosha types? Look for that here. I think it's back just a little further. So the good things about them, right? That you have the opportunity to talk a lot. So you can talk a lot, but at the same time, that could vitiate your vata. People who get into the field of talking, whether they're waitressing or doing stand-up, comedy, or, they're doing a lot of presentations. So they feel very comfortable talking. They don't have a problem with it. They have a strong fifth chakra, which is great, right? You can be happy about that. But you also want to do it in moderation. So that way you don't vitiate your dosha by talking all the time and having it go out. For kaphas, you could say, oh, I'm able to take it slow. I'm able to rest. A lot of people don't have that. I'm really, go with the flow too. And I'm very calm and smooth. But then also at the same time, you just have to make sure that you're not sitting around playing video games all day and not getting the movement that you need because you don't want to get that vitiated. So you look at both sides of it. Pittas, like we have here, that they're they can concentrate well and have a wit for learning. So even though they can get anger easily, just bring out the good things. If you see somebody and you're walking down the street and you can say, oh, you know what I learned today? I learned that, Vata is a really tall, slim person, and that person looks like they have a Vata body type. I don't know what type of personality they have, but you can try to guess what type of, body dosha somebody has. And then if you know somebody well enough, you can even try reading into them a little bit more and say, oh, yes, they have a little bit more fire in them. I can see that. And you might even see it in their eyes. You know, some people just have like a spark in their eye. You can see that fire. So they might have that as well. So, you know, look at the good. Don't always look at the bad in it, but just be mindful of how the doshas come up. All right. So in conclusion, we have covered what is Ayurveda, its goals, the doshas, Agni, Ama, food, digestion, and gut health. So we have to know knowledge is absolutely powerful. You know, we have the tools to bring ourselves to a state of balance. We have the opportunity to bring awareness to our body, our mind, our environment by using Ayurvedic technology to heal on a dense and subtle level. The essence of your dosha is recognizable and can be treating an imbalance to stay in balance can be simple when you maintain that strong Agni, that digestive fire. If that is strong, then we can treat our doshas, we can eat properly, we can keep the ama away. And you have to set your Agni before you can do anything else. You have to get that under control. But you can see these qualities in life and how they affect you in your doshas. So the end of our presentation today, we're just going to do a brief pranayam. I just want to allow us to breathe, gain back in the energy because we've been sitting. We've been listening to a lot of information, and that information can feel very heavy. So I just kind of want to clear us out, make us a little bit lighter, and allow us to leave feeling refreshed instead of, well, that was a lot to take in, and how do I process that before I get in my car? So let's digest the information we've had. And so we're just going to come sitting nice and tall, whether you're at home and you're in a chair or on the floor, or if you're here in the chair, let's just come sitting nice and tall and lengthen your spine. Allow your shoulders to drop down and back. Close your eyes, focus at your brow point. And here we're going to bring our right hand up like we're taking a pledge, and we're going to bring our left hand over our heart center. And this is called a calm heart meditation. Allow us to connect with our heart, allow us to connect with the thoughts. Our mind sits in the heart. And so here we're going to take equal inhale. So I would say a 5-second inhale. And we're going to hold the breath for 5 seconds. You'll do a 5-second exhale and a 5-second hold. And you're just going to repeat this. If you feel that you're able to extend the breath to 7 or 10 seconds, wonderful. But let's start off with 5. And these are full inhales, full suspensions, and full exhales. So cleansing breath. Exhale. And let's inhale for 5 seconds. Suspend the breath. Exhale. And hold the breath out. Inhale. Suspend the breath. Exhale. Hold the breath out. Inhale. Suspend the breath. Exhale. Hold the breath. Inhale. Continue at your own pace. If this breath works well for you, allow yourself to keep with it. Again, if you'd like to deepen it to 7 or 10 seconds, allow yourself to do so. We'll do this just for a few more moments. Connecting with your third eye, spine straight, feeling your heart center, feeling that openness of your palm, being ready and willing to high five the day. If your mind starts to wander, just bring your attention back to the breath, making sure that you're doing your equal inhale, suspension, exhale, and suspensions. And for whatever reason, if you have to come out of it, just allow yourself to do some long, deep breathing or try to continue the breath. Last minute on our meditation. Allow yourself to come back to it if you're able to. Deepen, elongate the breath time. Our goal is to reach a 1-minute breath. Let's take a deep inhale in. Powerfully exhale. Again, inhale deep. Powerfully exhale. One more time, inhale. And raise your arms up. And as you exhale, shake the hands, shake the arms. And bring your arms down. Keep your eyes closed. And just sensitize. Just take notice of your mind and your body, your breath. And I want to thank you for coming today. We have a small bit here for questions. I would really like to hear your feedback if you thought that this presentation was helpful for you. If you have any questions about food, doshas, digestion, ama, agni, whatever it might be. And it might be that you have to digest this information a little bit and then get back to me. You can always do so. I will be posting this on my YouTube channel. So if you wanted to watch it again later or have anybody know that would benefit from this, you can let them know to go to Yogi Strong on my social media, and especially on Instagram. The link is on there for my YouTube channel, and have them listen to it. But I would really like to hear any feedback or any questions that anybody would have. Could be that, let's see here, with something in the chat. Oh, thank you, Tina. Tina says that it was a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate that. It's a lot to cover in 2 hours, and it is an in-depth amount of information, especially for anybody here who is new to Ayurveda. And then just looking at the life choices of how we move so through life. Yes, Robin, go ahead.
Thank you, Josephine. I just wanted to say it was a wonderful presentation, and I expected as much from you. You know, I always find you to be very articulate on the subject, and it was very good. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. I really am so happy that you were able to make it today. And yeah, you know, it's a lot of information, not just for you to absorb, but for me to get across in such a way. So I'm glad that it was able to reach you and everybody else so well. So that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Kelly, that's great. She had an aha moment that she would share with me. If you feel comfortable sharing it now, Kelly, that would be great. If you want to do it privately, that's fine too. Thank you, Susan. I really appreciate that. And Kyle, you said you knew somebody who could benefit from this as well. Yes. So that's great. Kelly, did you want to say anything else? Did you have any other questions? Are you feeling good?
Today is the introduced to any of this information. So it was a little bit of a challenge to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Like let's define this, or tell me what you learned. But I will definitely review it again on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you. I don't know if anybody heard that, but she said that it's a lot of information to take in, and that it is hard to retain, because it is. There's a lot of levels. You know, you're talking about the macro and the micro. You're talking about the elements. You're talking about the doshas, and the elements are in the doshas, and how everything has an element. Everything has, this fluctuation. Everything has an Agni, and how we're digesting everything. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot of topics. So I hope that everybody at home is able to, rewatch this, take it in, do more research, reach out to me. We have here, the best way to reach me is through social media, but we have another presentation coming for Ayurveda in December, which would be great. And I think what we're most likely going to be doing is talking about the self-care rituals that go in for your dosha type. And that is going to be really beneficial, especially during that winter time when we're really going to need it, because, we get that SAD, right? That seasonal disorder. So we really want to take care. You can visit me on yogistrong.com for more information, or email info@yogistrong with any questions. And you can, again, find us on social media, #WeAreYogiStrong. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful weekend. And thank you again for your time. Satnam. Thank you. Thank you to everybody here too. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing. If anybody has anything else they'd like to share, please feel free to let me know. But otherwise, I appreciate your time, and I will see most of you later. Thank you.
Thanks again.